I just wonder, has anyone in the audience ever tried to imagine what it feels like to walk through a town, hear comments like, "Oh, what a beautiful tower," or just, "I love that blue church," to hear all this and have no idea what these people are talking about? If you have, you will know why we just had to go ahead with this project called Invisible Heritage, aiming at making the cultural heritage of Ivano-Frankivsk in Ukraine and in Lublin in Poland accessible to persons with visual impairment. Now, for Poland, being part of European Union means opportunities to engage in all kinds of cultural programs, but it also means an obligation to share what we have learned with our neighbors. Hence this cooperation between the Cool University and Ukrainian University in Ivano-Frankivsk, cooperation in making the museums and historic sites accessible to persons with visual impairments through tactile adaptations, 3D models, tactographics, and audio description. Now, the idea behind the project isn't really new, but the project itself is innovative. It is new because many museums now have similar adaptations. Many cities have models of historic buildings, and art galleries tend to have adaptations of paintings, tactile paintings. But does the fact that all this is available, does it mean that it is automatically accessible to persons who cannot see? Well, perception of blindness, meaning helplessness, as shown in the famous painting by Peter Bruegel, is a thing of the past. Now persons with visual impairments engage in all kinds of sports, they study in universities and are interested in art. But they do need help if this contact with art is going to be enjoyable, meaningful. Understanding the language of drawings. This simple drawing of a table is completely unrecognizable for someone born blind because it doesn't look like a table which normally has 4 legs. That's because drawings are, for blind people, a foreign language. In that foreign language, a tree can be drawn as a circle. Why? Because when we hug a tree, our arms make a circle. A bus can be represented by 3 lines, one for the step, one for the handrail, and one for the seat, the 3 elements of a bus which a blind passengers have contact with. So our project was innovative because we translated accessible as meaningful, and we added important components such as training for persons with visual impairment and for museum staff and for city guides. Plus, we had guided city tours. The training for blind participants focused on explaining the relation between 3-dimensional drawings and 3-dimensional objects and 2-dimensional drawings. And with the help of some resources, we were able to help understand why it is possible to draw a table by means of 3 lines. The result was that totally blind participants' ability to understand drawings was dramatically improved. And what was even more interesting, that they all engaged in making recognizable drawings. Most of them, for the first time in their lives, they would make drawings which were understandable. As for museums, 5 museums were covered with the program. The National Museum of Lublin is a branch, the Museum of History of Lublin, and the Open Air Village Museum in Lublin. In Ivano-Frankivsk, it was the local history museum and art museum of Pre-Carpathia. And for the program for museum staff focus on showing the challenges of visual impairment, also simulations of being a blind visitor to a museum, and on showing how to introduce, how to present museum exhibits to people with a low vision or total blindness. We also stressed the importance of audio description with a warning that sometimes it is necessary to show visitors replicas or models of objects shown in paintings, as though otherwise this audio description alone would not be very, very meaningful. For city guides, we focus on the language to be used when presenting some distant objects, and to avoid terms like over there, that one, above that window, which would not be very informative for someone who cannot see. These city tours were supported by guidebooks with tactile illustrations for blind tourists and with specially adapted photographs for visitors with low vision, where all unnecessary details and like a background were removed. These guidelines proved very useful in these city tours. So to sum up the key achievements, 5 museums were made more accessible. Tactile adaptations of museum exhibits and historic sites, that was the number of 60, and we had 54 accessible guidebooks, and finally, very important, 5 training sessions. The additional effect, I think, worth mentioning is a collection of tactile illustrations, sort of tactile paintings, collage type, made by totally blind participants. Again, for many of them, it was the first such an experience. But we can also see some long-term effects, like raised interest of local art galleries in organizing accessible events for persons with visual impairment, and definitely increased interest of blind persons themselves in visiting art galleries. But I think the biggest success maybe was, if I meant to mention just one, was to convince or maybe to remind blind participants, both young and elderly, that the world does not end at the tip of the white cane. The world starts there. Thank you.